With every episode, Maria just keeps getting better and better. If anyone out there knows someone who is even half as badass or as awesome as Maria is, you need to cherish that woman. If you have grandparents that are like that, cherish them. I mean, cherish your grandparents anyways, but still, to be able to make it to that age, still have that quick wit, still be that badass, and still be that type of person is absolutely incredible. Now, spoiler warning for those who haven't seen the episode just yet. I'm not going to be showing the episode or clips from it in this video, just images of the episode and analyses based on that. So we start off the episode with something, well, I guess if any of them were to end up behind bars, I guess Yang is a likely bet, but we see them locked out of the military base as we saw at the end of the last episode. And then we meet the toy soldiers, This is what passes for Atlas military these days. They are enthusiastic, to say the least, and even though Crow's saying, okay, look, fine, you don't believe that I'm friends with the general. I get it. But we have a schnee! And still, that's enough to at least get them to go get the commanding officer, who Maria just happens to be like, oh, I know her! But no, they're not friends, they're not acquaintances or comrades, they're enemies! You bring one thing of cashews, and then apparently you're put on the blacklist for the rest of your life. And that's what Maria and the commanding officer's relationship is entirely built on. And then comes probably the best line of the episode. While everyone's kind of questioning how this is going to turn out, Maria says, now, don't give up hope yet. Maybe she's dead. And it's been a while since I've burst out laughing watching a RWBY episode, because this volume has been kind of heavy with some pretty large information drops and some serious battles and things like that, but this was a welcome surprise. And just makes me love Maria just so much more, as I said at the beginning of this video. And then we meet Caroline Cordovan, another half-pint-sized woman who has a lot of personality, and, you know, comes out, first thing she says is calls Maria a witch. Which Maria responds with she-devil. It's one of those relationships. And Cordovan's the type of woman who's very proud of her position, that this is a place where she has been appointed in charge of the base, the communication tower, and the safety of Argus, that she's the only one with the wit and tenacity, and that's why she's been put in charge. I like Maria's answer better, yet again, where I think they just maybe wanted you as far away as possible from the homeland. Like that a lot better, and Maria's still coming out with those one-liners. And Cordovan even goes so much further to say that this place wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for our Atlesian ancestors. Now, that's something that I take an issue with. Like, yeah, it wouldn't even be there if it wasn't for the Atlesian ancestors, but you know what? That was the previous Atlesian generation, not the current one. The current one is run by completely different people. The achievements of the ancestors are not her achievements, are not the current Atlesian military's achievements. So they're not hers to lord over anyone. It's the same that goes for anything, even in today's society and any of us. What our ancestors previously achieved, sure, we can be proud of them, we can be happy that we're related to those people, or if they have done something extremely bad, we can be not happy about it and not really proud of it, but whatever it may be, it's not ours to lord over anyone else, and it's not anyone else's to lord over us. Like, the stuff that was achieved in the past was the past. This is the present. It's the people of the present who shape it, and who are going to shape the future. Those are the ones who are responsible, and those are the ones where the decisions will matter. Even in today's society, some of the choices being made are questionable, but that's not what this video is about. So, even then, RWBY just is like, okay, we know you weren't responsible for Beacon. We were there, calm down, you know, Ironwood's just worried, and that was a bit of a mistake, because that's almost like calling Ironwood a coward. And, oh, Cordovan doesn't take kindly to that by saying, you know, if everyone wants to make an enemy of Atlas, fine, Atlas will still prevail. Again, be proud of your own country, but don't declare that the entire world couldn't even take you down, because that's asking for trouble. And she at least says, you know, if Miss Schnee wants to return to her family, we will gladly let her, but not her questionable companions. And she looks directly at Blake. Does Atlas or Atlesian military people, is there maybe a bias in Atlas against Faunus, or is that something that Cordovan specifically has? I mean, her toy soldiers don't really question it, but with the way that we've seen the nobles act at the parties that Weiss has been to, and the way that, you know, Whitley, Weiss's brother, and Jacques, Weiss's father, act towards people of lower class, I wouldn't be surprised if that's something that is prevalent in Atlas, especially considering being that far north, Menagerie being all the way to the south. I'm not surprised if they just wouldn't have much interaction with Faunus, but even with Ironwood running the military, I mean, there was Faunus in the Atlas Academy school, because we saw Neon, and, like, she was part of the Atlesian school, Atlas Academy, and she was fine. She seemed happy. I guess there's no bias from Ironwood himself, but the rest of the military might, maybe not all of the military, of course, because everyone is still an individual, but it seems like, at least in Cordovan's case, there's a bias towards Faunus. And she slams the gates. Ruby reassures Weiss again for saying, you know, we're not going to let you go by yourself, we'll find a different way. Crow, being his depressing self, wanders off to go drink again, and completely ignores Ruby, who tries to say, you know, maybe we should try to figure something out. And then Nora, being the voice of reason, is just like, don't worry about him, we'll figure out something. We have Ozpin after all. Right, guys? Right? Well, here's where Juniper learns the truth, and boy do they not take it well. First thing we see is Jean causing property damage to Saffron and Terracotta's home. Saffron and Terracotta gonna kill him. I mean, Saffron probably won't kill his her little brother, but Terracotta gonna smack him, I am sure, because he left a pretty nice dent in that wall. But either way, Nora not taking it well, Ren's just saying, you know, Salem can't be killed. How are we supposed to win this? Well, there are ways to deal with immortals. If someone is immortal, you can trap them under a building or something like that. Granted, Salem probably has ways to get out of that, considering she has magic and everything on top of that. So yeah, there are some issues. But again, wording is everything. Yes, they are hearing it secondhand, but everyone else who heard it straight from Jin saw the question that was asked. Ozpin, in his previous incarnation, asked Jin directly, how do I kill Salem? You can't, was the answer he got back. You can't. You specifically. Wording is everything. Oscar then tries to, you know, calm everyone down and be the voice of reason, saying, you know what, look, I know everyone's upset, but we're not the enemy here. And Jean, with his emotions high, freaks out and says, are you sure? Are you sure we're not all the enemy here? You could be Ozpin right now, and slams Oscar against a wall. So now adding to the property damage is also child abuse. But slams him to the wall and is kind of, you know, rightfully questioning, and not in the right ways, but the question kind of is important. You know, he's in your head. How do you know the souls haven't combined at this point? Because as far as Ozpin told them, that's what happens. He finds a like-minded soul that he reincarnates in and eventually combines with them. That's what he said initially. It doesn't look like that's going to be the case, that they'll still be separate and individual personalities, but still, Jean's not entirely on the wrong track, but everyone freaks out and says, look, it's not his fault. He didn't choose this either, because he didn't choose to have Ozpin's soul reincarnated into him, and didn't choose to be dragged along on this journey. Granted, he did choose to set out, but still. Jean calms down a little bit and storms upstairs. Nora and Ren follow him, saying everyone should, you know, have some time alone, a little bit of time to themselves just to think, which makes sense. RWBY goes outside trying to call Crow with no answer, which causes her to freak out just a little bit. And Maria's actually out there. And RWBY and Maria get to talk a little bit. Basically, RWBY's concerned that she's letting everyone down. And she hates that she doesn't know everything. And Maria says, you know, you really don't give yourself enough credit. But that wasn't a compliment. Which I'm confused by why Maria didn't really mean that as a compliment, because to give yourself more credit, you know, that means that you're doing better than you think you do. I don't know. It's, I guess, more just a statement, maybe, was what Maria was implying, instead of it being a compliment or a diss or anything like that. But still. And she goes further to say, you know, if you're tired of not knowing anything, how about we talk about those silver eyes? And Maria starts to recount, you know, what she knows. Well, first that's RWBY, what does she know about silver eyes? And as far as RWBY knows, legendary warriors, and a turn a dragon to stone. Which is fair. That's as much as she does know. And Maria, not too impressed by that, but she had her father. And she starts to recount the stories that she knew of her father. And frankly, her father didn't even know much about the silver eyes. Just that there used to be warriors whose eyes shone like mirrors, reflecting the light of the world onto the darkness, and defeating it. And her father was also a very, very smart person, very self-aware. You know, we have such a powerful bloodline for what this world is, that there's Grimm everywhere, that we have an anti-darkness weapon that can reflect the light of the world onto the darkness and destroy it. But how are there so few of us? How are we dying out? Unless something is hunting them, which, even not knowing that Salem exists, could still understand a presence was out there hunting the Silver Eyes. That's really, really smart. And I'm guessing Summer Rose, or RWBY's grandmother, whoever that may be, knew about that. Even if they didn't know about Salem themselves. I mean, Summer was obviously opened up to the truth of the world, as is RWBY, and now Maria, but wherever RWBY's bloodline came from, because there's probably more than one bloodline of Silver Eyes, they probably knew that someone was hunting the Silver Eyes as well. That Silver Eyes were dying out, and that something is out there hunting them. They don't know what, but something is there. And now we all know what that something is. Though at the time Maria didn't know about Salem, she was still trying to protect her eyes. And unfortunately, as we saw in the last episode, she still lost them. She says she owes her life to both her skills that she was taught by her father and her semblance. And we actually find out what her semblance is. She refers to them simply as reflexes. She can apparently sense things around her better than most people can and react to things almost before they happen. We now have an explanation as to how she was able to meander off of the train very easily after it derailed with not a scratch on her. She was able to sense everything that was happening around her and react in such a way that she could find a safe place on the train even as it's turning upside down. Pretty good skill to have. Honestly, probably one of the better semblances for this world, combined with the Silver Eyes. Pretty damn good. Basically, Maria then tells RWBY exactly what the eyes are. They are an anti-darkness weapon, where the Grimm are creatures of destruction. The eyes that we have are gifts from his brother, the god of light. And although RWBY worded it, "How do I blast monsters with my eyeballs?" No, Maria refers to it as the light to preserve life, where preservation comes from creation. It may not be considered that, but actually in opposition to destruction, it comes from the god of light. And she didn't really realize that until seeing Jin's recounting of the entire tale. And we actually see a vision of when the god of light confronted the god of darkness for bringing Ozma back. He sent out a blast of light that annihilated the Grimm. And I didn't connect the dots previously when I first saw this, that it's the exact same as the blast from the Silver Eyes. I didn't really see it as silver, considering the god of light appeared in more of a yellowish hue, and I kind of thought that the blast was of that nature as well. But yeah, when it shows it here and they're talking about the Silver Eyes, it makes a lot of sense. Although RWBY points out, oh, the God of Light's eyes, that apparently they were silver eyes as well. I don't think they actually were. They were yellowish in color as on top of the rest of his body, but they held that power. That apparently that's what it's implying, that she has the, I guess, eyes of God in some way, shape, or form, apparently. And then, you know, Yang bursts out and says, yeah, well, Oscar's missing now, so yeah, that's where the episode ends. With Oscar now missing, and John should feel bad about that, because he's the one who bullied Oscar into leaving, but Oscar had a look on his face before he took off that just seemed kind of solemn, like he was blaming himself, which Oscar's smarter than that. He's not the one at fault, but he can understand why everyone is feeling so high-strung and kind of blaming him. So I'm pretty sure I'm hoping at least he was smart enough to just take off and be like, okay, Ozpin, we need to talk. Let's figure this thing out. I'm hoping that's where Oscar went. We'll find out hopefully later episodes. And I'm guessing this is where it's going to lead into what the climax of this volume is going to be. As everyone's out searching for Oscar, that's where certain enemies are starting to gather, which is going to be Adam, Cinder, and Neo, among others, maybe, depending on if Miss Malachite has found out about the relic, and Salem, and the Maidens, and all this other power that her and her organization could have, or even just make money off of. Frankly, that one question that Jin still has, there'd be a lot of people in the world who would love to have that one question and who would pay a lot for it. So if Miss Malachite found out about that, wouldn't be surprised if she became more of a major enemy instead of just the brief little bit that we saw of her in the past couple episodes. So now, my main question that I have from this entire episode is from when actually Maria and RWBY were talking. RWBY brought up that, wait, my eyes reacted at Haven Academy when I was fighting Cinder. And Maria pointed out, well, maybe there was just something that you didn't see, something that you missed. And that, of course, was true. Cinder has a grim arm. So RWBY's silver eyes would react to that. But now, here's my question. The silver eyes are an anti-grim weapon, an anti-destruction weapon, an anti-darkness weapon. So they would only affect Grim, right? When she activated against the apathy, it was only the apathy that were affected. No one else in the room was affected. And even though they were in close proximity, Maria was right there holding RWBY's head moments before she let off the silver eyes, and was completely fine. So then how did Cinder lose her arm in the first place, lose her voice, lose her freaking eye if RWBY didn't do it? If RWBY couldn't do it because of the silver eyes? How the heck did all of that happen? RWBY turned the giant Grim to stone. It's not like she disintegrated it and the eyes just went ballistic and started destroying everything around that. No, they actually didn't destroy a single thing. They just turned it to stone. So how did Cinder lose her arm and get damaged so badly, and why does she blame RWBY for it all? There's a lot we don't know about the fall of Beacon. I never brought this up before. It's something that I've been kind of wondering about, but never really questioned it because it wasn't confirmed or denied what exactly the Silver Eyes were. I figured they were just some sort of weapon that, once learned to be controlled, yes, were more of an anti-Grim weapon, but could be used to harm other things if the user so wanted. But no. Maria even went so far to say, you know, there's nothing you can do here. The only way you're going to be able to test your powers is by a trial by fire. So in other words, being thrown out into a horde of Grim and being able to activate her powers and use it. So it's only against Grim that it can be used. Again, how did Cinder lose her arm, her voice, I mean, her voice probably just from screaming so loudly at what the hell is RWBY able to do, but the arm and the eye, like, she took a lot of damage from something. And I don't think RWBY, in her blind rage, would take out her scythe, slash off Cinder's arm, and then slash Cinder's eye. I don't think that's the case, because we saw the wounds that Cinder has. They weren't slash wounds. The wound that Cinder had on her eye was more of a burn wound, similar to what I'd assume Zuko had from Avatar: The Last Airbender. Granted, of course, different animation and everything, but it looked like burned skin. That kind of ripple effect, I guess, or the scar tissue that built up around that, and same with the wound of her arm. It wasn't like it was just sliced off like Yang's was. Yang's was definitely a clean slice. This was not. It looked like it was almost blasted off. And now we know that RWBY's silver eyes do not have that power. So what happened? Did she, like, get blinded by the silver eyes and then fall off the building? Well, that still wouldn't explain what happened. And there's just a lot that needs to be explained. Maybe Cinder had some grim portion on her, because I mean, she had the glove to initially steal the power from Amber, and I'm guessing there was some grim aspect in that. So maybe she did have some sort of grim something on her at that time, and that's what the silver eyes reacted to and then blew her arm off and blew her eye away? Maybe? I don't know. I feel like we need some explanation on that. That when Cinder actually is able to confront RWBY, maybe later in this volume, they'll have a 1v1 away from everywhere else, and Cinder will maybe be able to clear a few things up. That's what I'm hoping, at least, because there's something that just needs to be explained from the Battle of Beacon. And also, I'm not really happy about Crow this episode, because he just takes off and completely ignores RWBY. I'm not very happy about that, because he's supposed to care about his family. Yeah, he's pissed off, he's upset, and he just wants to drink himself to death at this point. He's continuously giving into despair, as I mentioned at the last episode, as well as the episode before that, especially. And he needs to fix that. RWBY needs to help him, and I'm hoping that she does this volume. Or Maria just hits him upside the head with the cane and tells him to snap the heck out of it. But next episode, we're going to see everyone go on a scavenger hunt for Oscar, and hopefully Jean, Ren, and Nora can kind of calm down a little bit, and soon enough, hopefully, we will find out that wording is everything. That, well, Ozpin, or Ozma, or that previous incarnation of Ozma couldn't kill Salem, couldn't destroy Salem. But there is another way to. There are ways to defeat her. Something that we'll have to find out in the future. Hopefully we'll find out soon. We'll probably find out later on this volume. I'm hoping that this volume is longer than 16 episodes, that this doesn't mark the midpoint of it, because I think the last volume was 15, so episode 8 was the midpoint exactly. I'm hoping that the volumes are getting longer, that the episodes are increasing in number, and I'm hoping we get more RWBY this volume. But let me know what you guys think about this overall episode, how you're liking Maria so far, what you think of the Silver Eyes, and most importantly, what do you think actually happened to Cinder at Beacon, because I don't really know, and I really want to hear everyone's opinions on it, because it's something that is kind of driving me insane. So let me know what you guys think. I look forward to hearing what you guys have to say in the comments. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.